Nope.
Hello and welcome everybody. What you see before you is what's going to allow us to take what you just saw a moment ago and bring it up to something that I think is going to be quite a bit nicer. Now what these are some household materials and an inexpensive O-ring that you can get on AliExpress for about $2. And the reason why these are important is because the board we're going to be taking a look at today, it only costs $26. Now, the board I'm talking about today is whatever this is. So it's an iLovBee i61 gaming keyboard. And when I saw this on Amazon, I didn't know what to think of it because I thought, that's like a royal kludge. That looks like an RK61, but you know, an RK61 is typically in the $45 range, and even now this can be had for $31.99. So who knows what it will go down to during the holiday season. I've seen boards like this in the past go for as low as like $15. But this has hot swap sockets that are the Redragon style hot swap sockets, and they're not the Utemu ones that only take like Utemu switches or Akos or Gazoo switches, because those are Utemu as well. This will actually accept any kind of switch. So that's what we're going to do today, is we are going to try to take whatever this is and we're going to bring it up a notch and make it sound like something that's pretty decent, hopefully. So as you can see here, it's a pretty simple box. It just basically screams keyboard. What I think is funny is that these are put-in keycaps on the back. But what I like about this is that it does not ship with put-in keycaps. It actually ships with a pretty decent set of PBT die sub. So why don't we go ahead and crack it open and take a look at it. Now again, I got this board on Amazon for $26, free shipping because of Amazon Prime, and I got this next day. So we've got our manual here, which is nice. It's got some RGB features and things here. And then we'll take the board out, we'll set it aside. As you can see, it comes in a protective sleeve. But this also ships with a regular USB cable, and then we get another one of those dual switch and keycap pullers, which is pretty cool because I'm so used to those junk switch pullers coming in packaging like this that's pretty amazing. So that's what it comes with. It just comes with these three items here. And heck, we're gonna need that. Let's use that one. We don't have to use the one that I've got. And then let's take a look at the keyboard here. So if you're hoping to use the sleeve for PE foam mod, this is not PE foam. This is like a propylene plastic of some sort. I mean, you can use it, but I would use it at your own risk. But here we've got our iLovBee RK61. Sorry, it's an i61. I just screwed up already, but it's an i61. And as we see here, I'll try to throw a picture of an RK61 up on the screen. But as you see here, we've got a 60%, 61 key standard ANSI layout. So we don't have 64 key or ISO or anything like that. But what we do get is we do get some pretty decent keycaps. So they are fairly decent. They are not shine through. They are die sub. Now the key binding out of the box, not really happy with the FN being all the way over on the right. And sadly, we can't change those keycap configurations around with these keycaps because this is also the up arrow when you're holding function. But as you saw in the beginning, this has not an amazing sound. It's not as bad as an OEM unit, but it's just okay, and we want to make it better than okay. And the reason why I chose this is, again, 26 bucks. I used a piece of felt that I had in the closet. If you don't have felt, you can use like an old t-shirt. I also used some shelf lining. This can be found at your local big box store. You can even find this stuff at like your Dollar Tree and stuff like that. So we're going to use some of this, and then I ordered some O-rings for modding from AliExpress, and didn't have to order bulk. You get 2 of them for, I think it's like $2, or it's a pack of 5, something like that. I know that I didn't spend much money, and I got a lot more than I expected because I thought I was only ordering a couple of them. So we're going to take this board, and we are going to O-ring mount it and friction fit it in there. And I did put it back in the box just for unboxing sake, to give that sense of authenticity of what you would experience when unboxing it. But I did have to take a look at this one to make sure that these mods were going to work okay. And I did notice that I did have to modify the stabilizers. Now these are slightly pre-lubed. They seem like they're cherry stabilizers, or some sort of cherry equivalent. So I'll hold it up here, and you can hear that bottom out of the cherry stabs, and how those the legs are doing that. And this one has actually been modified, so it is a lot more pronounced. This is a 60% tray mount board with a steel plate. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and tear it down, and I'm going to show you what we're working with in the bottom. So again, I'm going to use my XOOL toolkit here. I'll always have a link to these in the description. They are a great toolkit, and if you decide to use the link in the description, that will help me out to find some more cool projects like this to cover. And this thing is great. I use it professionally and for these YouTube videos. So you've got 4 screws on the back. They're pretty short. They appear to be M2 or M2.5, and they're small Phillips head screws. And unlike most tray mount boards, there's only 1 screw in the top, and that is something that I definitely need to mention, because it kind of hung me up a little bit because I couldn't find it. I thought it was only the 4 because there were no indications. So that wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. So as you can see, it comes with foam. The screw that you'll be looking for is actually right here between the 5 and the 6. And that's the 1 single screw that it has. So, yes, it does have foam. It comes with some of this really thin, very airy case foam. And that's what allows it to, it's not as hollow sounding as you would expect, and that's because of this. In addition to having that case foam, there is some plate foam. So it does have some EVA plate foam from what it feels like. We'll take a look at that here in just a moment. And yeah, the plate does kind of stick through, and these are the screw-in points. So it being a metal plate, I didn't modify those, but I did cut down the case here a little bit, and I'll show you there. So, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So there are 5 total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws holding that plate together. So what I want to show you is what I did to the bottom case here. So normally I would completely remove the ribbing, but I want to kind of keep this intact in case, I want to regift it or something in the future, and maybe they don't want all that. So what I did do is I left this in place, and it still, you'll see there's quite a bit of flex or bounce in this. So I left all the ribbing in place, and then I cut down these standoffs, so they stood up a little bit higher than that, and I cut them flush. But I wanted to make sure that I didn't put a hole all the way through the bottom of the case, that the screw hole was just a screw hole. And then I went all the way around and I removed these supports, except for in choice locations where I only trimmed down the top part of it. So we've got that around the USB port for support, and then we've got a couple around the edges all the way around, and then every one of these in the front I removed because it's going to sit there anyway. So what that does is that gives us a place for the O-ring to sit, and I noticed that like in my N Pro I didn't have to go to this far of an extent to do this because it would sit fine, but the USB in this case was actually sitting up a little bit higher than the slot was. So I did have to kind of make the adjustments for that. So again, I just used some flush cutters and cut out all the supports on the sides, and now the board is able to sit there like it's supposed to. So what I would like to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take these keycaps off, and then we'll take off the switches, and then we'll start doing the mods and see how it comes out. I will be doing a rebuild video on this for some RGB flavor, but right now I want to see if we can make this $26 keyboard sound like a $100 ACO product. So let's go ahead and get these keycaps off. All right, we got that off. Now what I'd like to show you is how thick these are. Now, these are OEM die sub PBT keycaps. They are, actually, you know what? I lied. These are not die sub. These are double shot. How about that? So if we look at these, they are double shot keycaps. And the nice thing about these is they are actually fairly thick. So you can see here, it's 1.2, so that's about as thick as most PBT, decent PBT cherry profile caps are. These are quite a bit thicker than Taihao. Now, I wouldn't say the legends are quite as nice as Taihao, but they are pretty good. It's just that the sub legends are pretty much going to work for specific key bindings. So we got a nice hefty steel plate on here. I want to show you that these are red switches, unlubed. They are not K Pros, G Pros, anything like that. They are fairly smooth, but they've got a lot of wiggle. And I don't know that I'll be able to show off. I'll try to show off what they say on them. Get it close enough here. But they say, yeah, I can never get it to pick up on camera here. But they say iLovBee on them. So they're actually custom branded to these keyboards. So whatever OEM built this keyboard, they also picked up OEM switches. So we've got just inexpensive red switches here that are pretty rattly, pretty clacky. We are going to put some similar switches back in that, but a little bit higher quality. So let's go ahead and get these switches off, and we'll take a look and see what's under the hood. All right, we got the last switch out. Now what I want to show is stabilizer. These are cherry style with the little foot that needs to be trimmed off. There is a little bit of lubricant in there, as you can see, but the stabs themselves are not lubed. There's just a little bit of lube on that. But I think these make great candidates for clipping and then dielectric injecting. So the tolerances are fairly decent. I didn't notice any rattle. In fact, might be really decent because these are having a hard time getting them out without breaking that clip. It's a north-facing board. There is no PE foam type material in the bottom of this. So there's no silicone or IXPE or anything like that. So you're not going to get that, you know, marbly sound out of it. But with the switches that we're going to be using and some of the modifications that we'll do, we can kind of get that nice, you know, foamy sound out of it. They are north-facing. It does have a nice thick plate foam here. I mean, it's actually kind of bulging out of the plate, but it offers some fairly nice dampening. So yeah, let's go ahead and get these stabs out. I'll get them tuned up and I'll show you what switches we're going to be using. So I will see you guys on the other side. So the switches that we're going to be using today are Gateron Pro Reds. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I wanted to keep it similar, keep it cheap, but instead of buying a $16 lube kit and hand lubing, which would be the better investment if you plan on doing multiple boards in the future, you can get a nicer, slightly tighter housing and very similar feel to your stock switch. But it is a little bit tighter, a little bit less wobble. They do have clearance for cherry keycaps, which is nice. So if you do decide that you want to run cherry keycaps, you've got kind of there's kind of a little lip here that allows for clearance for most kits. The thicker kits are still going to hit, but most kits will still work on it. So you can use cherry keycaps with these. Now, in addition to that, these do come pre-lubed. So that is that switch, and this is the original switch. Hear how loose it is and how clacky it is? A lot smoother. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these added, and then we'll take a look. Let's actually take a look at that real quick. So I want to demonstrate. And when you put these switches in, they do have some tolerance differences, I guess, if you will. They do not just kind of pop in, like they go into the socket, but then once you've got it into the hot swap sockets, you kind of have to push some force on the top part of the switch here. So let's go ahead and get our enter on with these new switches. So we still need to do some injection tuning, which I will do. I definitely recommend it. I don't think a switch or a syringe is out of the realm of affordability, but I want to demonstrate what these mods with stabilizers sound like with just the dielectric grease. And I did the dip method so that way I could get it on there thick enough for somebody who maybe doesn't have a syringe. But I'm telling you, pick up a syringe. But I mean, you can probably hear that already. They already sound so much better, and I haven't even had the opportunity to tune them yet. So let's go ahead and get these switches on, and then we'll talk about what mods we're going to be doing. Okay, so we're just going to, let's see here. Okay, we're gonna lube these butts a little bit. Now when you do this, it's gonna feel a little mushy at first. People are often very concerned about the mush when doing this, but the mush goes away. The grease is gonna work its way in, and honestly, really, you're going to end up having to do it anyway unless you get a good set of stabs and you balance them properly and lube them properly. But when we're working on a budget, this gets us really close. And I don't expect people that are working on a budget like this to buy a thing of BDZ that costs half as much as the keyboard. Again, I don't feel like investing in a syringe and dielectric grease is a bad investment. But, whoops. I do feel like if somebody were to invest in BDZ and they're working with a $26 board, they might be better off just either A, getting better stabilizers to begin with, or B, just get some lube like this and get a proper lube kit or something. What I'm saying is that money is better well spent elsewhere, because you can jump up to like an Aqua board and start getting into that territory. So now we got all of our Pro Reds on here. It's going to alter our sound, and before we jump into putting the keycaps on and doing the other mods, I'll flip it over, and since we aren't PE foam modding it, I'm going to throw some tape on it. Okay. Now we've got our O-ring here, and the way this works is it just goes between the plate and the PCB, and one thing that I need to remind you guys of is that that O-ring is putting pressure on your switches. If you need to pull out a corner switch, you will need to take out the assembly and remove this O-ring before you pull out a corner switch. Otherwise, if you pull out the corner switch, it's just going to suck into the corner here, and you're going to have to take it apart anyway. Okay, so we've got that in there. Now, I'm not going to use this foam, but what I am going to use is felt on the bottom. The felt is more dense, so we're going to put that on the bottom. And the reason why I do that is because I want it to kind of isolate the sound within the case. And then this is simply a filler. And then we're going to drop our board in with the USB port facing the direction that it goes in. And we'll press in the PCB. Now you got to watch out for this O-ring, so you want to kind of give it some love as you're going along. And just kind of work it in a little bit at a time. Otherwise you get a little bit of a blowout like that. See how we've got kind of a blowout. So we want to make sure we're taking our time and working that in. Once you've got the O-ring in all around, again, you're going to want to line up your USB port there and then press the front end nice and firm. And as you can see here, you might not be able to see it too well. There is a bit of flex there, bounce if you will. So we've got to try to get everything to line up. And once everything is lined up, one thing that we can do is if you have your filler where you want it and you don't want to remove any, I'm a little overstacked with the 2 layers of tape, is you can cut this out back here. So if you look here, you could cut the rest of that square out, so you've got some extra bounce room too. And you can also cut off those standoffs a little bit more that were behind these holes. And the reason why you would want to do that is just to give yourself more of that flex room, because this has got some flex to it, and I would recommend doing that. I just, like I said, I didn't want to mutilate it too much, but right now it's nice and friction fit in there. It's got so much foam in there. We're not actually trying to achieve any kind of bounce with this, so don't let that be a point of confusion. The reason why we're O-ringing this is simply for noise isolation. So I want to kind of demonstrate here. So let's put the space bar on, and I don't know if you can hear the difference, but it's already slapping. So let's get these keycaps put on, and then we'll come back and do a sound test. All right, there you have it. There are a couple other things that I want to do to this, but I want to save it for like the you know, epic mod video. This was just to kind of get us that really nice sound. This has, with the shelf liner in it, you can get that for like $1 at the Dollar Tree. Well, $1.25 now. You can pick it up at a dollar store for a couple bucks. Dielectric grease, you can pick up a small tube of it for like $4 at an automotive place, a parts store. And this board was 26 bucks. I think it's $31 right now when I checked last on Amazon. But if it was 26 bucks, that tells me that you should be able to pick it up for around that price again at some point. So I think that's pretty awesome. We're reusing the keycaps. You can pick up switches for this board, the Gateron Pro Red. I'll link those in the description. Pick your poison. You can get Pro Browns, Reds, Yellows, and Blacks. And they all have the same housing. They just really have, the Browns are tactile lightly. And the remaining rest of the series, it's just a different weight of the spring. But it should all have a very similar sound. So I'll try to post a link in the description to a listing that has all those different options in case you want to go with like a yellow or something, which is my preference. But yeah, this board's pretty awesome. In the future build, what I want to do is I want to use some legitimate PE foam in this. I want to swap them out for some different keycaps, and I want to remove this logo here. See if we can get that off with an eraser and kind of just clean it up a little bit. And I might even make an additional video where we just get stupid with this and maybe throw some cream sodas on it, and you know, throw on like how about NK cherry milkshake. So we'll throw some milkshake on it with some cream sodas and see what we could do with it then. We'll have some fun with that. But yeah, I mean, this one came out pretty nice. I'm very happy with the sound. This sounds a lot different in this state than it did at the beginning of the video. But as always, I want to thank everybody for hanging out with me. It's been really fun. Cream Soda Group Buy should be live the day after this video goes live. It will run from the 22nd of September until October 16th. And that gives you guys ample time to get your orders in. Should run you about 70 to 75 cents USD. And those are, all those specs are out there. There's tons of content creators that are covering them. I've got several videos on this channel. Lots of people on Twitch that are covering them. So be sure to support those other creators and check out their content. The group buy is live on Reddit and on GeekHack. But yeah, as always, descriptions will be linked, or rather, links will be put in the description for these products. So if you want to show your support for the channel, if you plan on picking one of these up, if you could use that link, I'd appreciate that. You get a tiny kickback that helps me find other crazy, weird, fun modding options, because this is the real fun part of the hobby. You know, collecting is great and everything, but this is where you can really get your hands dirty and not be afraid to break something. But yeah, you guys are awesome. You're amazing. You're beautiful people. Thank you so much for showing up and supporting my channel. And until next time, y'all have a good one.